What's going on, Collectibles family? How we doing? It is another Collectibles video, Collectibles Dad video. We are back with a reaction video today. This one is going to be fun. Woo! Nostalgia Nomics, a guy that I've been watching a little bit, one of these Pokemon card channels, and he's got an interesting channel. Let me first start with some of the niceties. I think he's got a lot of good energy. He really kind of brings it for every video, and you can tell that he's really passionate about Pokemon cards in general. And that's great. That's awesome. But man, I watched this recent video and it was titled Pokemon Modern Sealed Investing is Still King in 2023. And throughout this video, well, first off, the thing that bothers me is he starts his videos with folks. And this is obviously a Rudy Alpha Investments thing. He's the one that does folks. You can't take folks. That's Rudy's. So anyway, right off the bat, I just feel like, you're kind of, and maybe it's like paying homage to a guy that he also looks up to. I really don't know. But either way, that's a Rudy thing, the folks. So that right out of the gate, it kind of bothers me a little bit. And so he's big on modern Pokemon cards. I don't know if he has the vintage stuff, which I also collect sports cards and other collectibles. So vintage for Pokemon, keep in mind, is going back to the mid to late 90s. That is not considered really vintage in any other collectible space except for Pokemon cards, Pokemon collectibles, because that's when it came out. Can't fault him for it, but that's just what it is. But the thing is if we go to the 90s, it's kind of prime time for when there was really mass-produced collectibles. That's Beanie Babies time, guys. Beanie Babies were it in the 90s. And I'm sure a lot of people wish they could go back and instead of buying the Beanie Babies, actually bought more of the Pokemon cards, stashed them away, and so forth. But anyway, hindsight is always 20/20, especially in the collectible space. So this guy, Nostalgia Nomics, he's huge on modern Pokemon. He makes videos all the time about making money in this and that. And there is short-term flip opportunities. The one thing that he kind of points to, and it's really across, I've seen this across all collectible spaces. So you have a new product that comes out, and then you are first to get the PSA 10 or the 10 grade to market, or a CGC 9.8 to market. And that's a big play. Okay, we rip open the new box. Ooh, we find kind of the chase cards, get that off to grading, and then get it on the market as quickly as you can and try to make some short-term money. It's pretty popular among graded video games, sports cards, non-sports cards, comic books, all the stuff. But in this video, he's talking more about sealed products. So he buys sealed product for Pokemon. And again, this is what a lot of folks do on the Magic the Gathering side. It's kind of Rudy-esque, you know, with Magic the Gathering and buying pallets of stuff and holding on to it and just kind of holding sealed product over time. And I think if you go back in time some, and this is very similar again to other collectible spaces, if you're pre-2020 in on a lot of this stuff, then you're doing fantastically great. We'll use an example here, the 1999 Pikachu First Edition, the Red Cheeks in a PSA 10. This card 5 years ago was a $300 card. It now sits in a PSA 10 at about $3,000. It's still 10x what it was 5 years ago. And it actually got up, there were sales for this thing that got up in the $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 range at the peak of the free money stimulus 2020, 2021. The printers go burr and the money goes out to all the people, right? So that was the height really of collectibles, and that's ever. That's not, I know people always talk about the ebbs and flows in collectibles markets. 2020 and 2021 was the biggest Mount Everest climb that there ever was. So when you're looking at these sealed boxes and he's commenting on, okay, this box is, you know, $500, it's up to $550, $600 up to $675, you know, so you're seeing some increases. So even still in 2023, you're still seeing some gains, some climbs in some of these modern Pokemon products. And maybe if the boxes are 5 years old or 10 years old, there's some potential there. Let's look at some stats though for stuff that's really going back to 2021. I want to really focus in on 2021. So what happened, of course, when all the crazy, you know, everyone's rushing to all the different, the Walmarts, the Targets, everyone wants their Pokemon cards. And so what does the Pokemon company do in reaction to that? I think there was actually, I remember seeing this on TV going back to 2021, and the Pokemon company was so upset that collectors, and really speculators, couldn't get more of the product. They vowed that they would make more of that product, and man, they did just that. From March of 2021 to March of 2022, they printed 9 billion cards. So the year prior to that, before all the crazy, when they weren't ready for this sort of demand, they printed 3.7 billion cards. And then the year after that, from March 22 to March 2023, They printed another 10 billion cards. They kept that thing churning, man, because they wanted to make sure that there's plenty of that stuff out there. This kind of reminds me a little bit when I go back in time to, 1990, the sports card boom before this last boom, from the late 80s to the mid 90s. And you can still get boxes of 1990 Don Russ and 88 Topps football and baseball cards, $20 for 36 packs, $40 for 30 packs, or whatever it is. And I'm not saying that Pokemon's going to be exactly the same. We don't know. Nobody can see the future. But to be this bullish when you have seen this much spec money come into the market, and you have to know that there is still a ton of spec money in this market. There's people that maybe bought really high that are just going to sit there on it because they're like, well, I'm not going to sell this for half. Or, maybe they're sitting on it. They got in early 2018 and they're like, I'm just going to hold on to the stuff over the long run. I like it. People are just kind of sitting on stuff. But this product from 2021 to now and the stuff that continues on, there's no shortage of it. So you're really hoping that demand stays high enough to where it doesn't fall through the cracks. It's not a race to the bottom, because once the spec money, the demand leaves, it is a race to the bottom like you've never seen before. And again, maybe it doesn't happen with Pokemon. It certainly happened with Beanie Babies. I remember going back in the 90s. This thing was red hot. Everybody's searching for these Beanie Babies, and then it just fell off a cliff. And it can happen in collectibles. Collectibles is a wonky space, highly volatile. We've seen it in crypto and sort of these sorts of things too. These volatile market spaces, while they're a lot of fun, and look, I've got all the stuff too. I love it. But I'm also careful and realistic. We've seen kind of the climbs and the falls. And Pokemon cards aren't different. So it's not as if, this demand for Pokemon, it'll go on forever. It's guaranteed to go on forever. And there's always just going to be new collectors of this stuff. There's always going to be new people getting into it. Look at the next generation getting into it. Maybe the next generation won't care about cards, though. Maybe they'll like, the movies and the shows and all that stuff. Maybe they won't play the game. We just don't know how it's going to look. It's the same with all types of collectibles. So again, when I listen to Nostalgia Nomics, I like his passion, I like his energy, I like his optimism. Man, given the price increases over the last few years, you have to be really, really in on it. You've got to be a believer, a big-time believer, to think that there is just a lot more upside on some of this stuff buying in now. Really, if we're being serious, we're being honest here, the people that really made out are the people that were in before the crazy, before all the spec money hit. And that's what a lot of people are doing in collectibles, is if they're kind of doing short-term buys and sells, they're really trying to get ahead of the spec money. You see it in graded comic books. You see it in everything. Everybody's trying to get ahead of the spec wave or the whales. What are the whales doing? When the whales get in, you're kind of hoping that you got in before, because that's when the big kind of the shoot to the stars stuff happens, but it's usually short-lived. So with Pokemon cards, I just think with the modern stuff, the vintage stuff is a little bit different. I think there's really some rare stuff that's awesome, and it's just about price point, with the vintage boxes and with the vintage individual cards. The new modern stuff, though, man, be extremely careful with some of the sealed product. I think there's an assumption that you buy it and it just kind of goes up over time. You might be surprised that it's possible for sealed product to actually go down in value. It's not impossible. Demand goes down on stuff, and it can go down. So anyway, that's all I've got, friends. Stay healthy, stay awesome, and I will talk to you again later.